all of this is to keep everyone entertained. So we're going to have some poll questions along the way in between our speakers. And I wanted to start off with one. I got a green light for this question from two high-ranking engineers on the 6th floor, and I had 50-50 yes and no on this. So I'll be disappointed if we don't have the same here. So let me try to make this poll active. It's a pretty easy one. And we will see everyone try to answer this poll if you can. Look at that, we're right at 50-50. And again, when I got the green light that I could ask this question, I had 50-50 shoe wearing at that time. So making sure everybody's awake and in the platform. Oh, our shoe wearers are jumping ahead. So Travis, you or Jennifer may have to help me. When they slow down, I'll close the poll and we'll introduce our first speaker. But I'm not surprised by our responses here. I thought we would have at least half of us without shoes on. So you're making me proud if you're at home today. You're comfortable at home. Okay, we'll go ahead and close this poll and I'll introduce our first speaker. We had 55% people wearing shoes today and 45 not. I was hoping that our non-shoe wearers would run out, but that didn't happen today. Maybe by tomorrow, everybody will be more comfortable in our conference and kick their shoes off. So now that we know everyone's here and with us, then we'll go ahead and get our conference started with our lineup of speakers. And our first speaker is Secretary Jim Gray. And Jim is Secretary Gray is the former mayor of Lexington, and he currently serves as our Secretary of Transportation in the cabinet with Governor Andy Beshear. During his 8 years as mayor, Secretary Gray was known for getting things done. And I can say that I would agree that he's known for that here at the cabinet as well. As mayor, he focused on 3 core themes: creating jobs, running government efficiently, and building a great American city. In 2018, Lexington was named the 4th best run city in the country. And at the start of his career, Jim Gray earned a Bachelor of Arts from Vanderbilt University, and then he came home to Glasgow in District 3 to build his family's engineering and construction firm, Gray Construction, into one of America's leading design-build firms. And he served as its CEO and chairman at that time. He conceived and co-founded the Design Build Institute of America in 1993, and he was appointed a Loeb Fellow at Harvard's Graduate School of Design in 1997. So I see Secretary Gray with us now, loud and clear, and your microphone's on, so I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, Denitra.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. And I will tell you that, yes, I am in the office today. And yes, I do have my shoes on. But I might have answered that differently had I not been here in the office. So thank you very much.
Very good.
And
Thank you.
Patty Dunaway has already in the chat window is already giving you high praise. And so are others. Now, I don't know how that's going to play, though. I don't know how that's going to play with Bob Yeager, because, you know, I heard that Bob had an outstanding performance. So you got big shoes to fill this year, Denitra, but you're doing it right out of the gate. And I want to thank everybody. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. This is my first conference. And so I guess it's a little bit of a unusual history that we're making today, with this being a first virtual conference. And I don't know if you're like me, but I would say that I hope it's a one and done, that next year we get back to the real conference where we can all get together and collaborate and get that sense of togetherness that always is healthy and always is good, and we're all accustomed to. But we have adjusted and we have adapted. And I'm going to talk about that in my remarks here as we go along. I would say that, you know, as we're going downstream, none of us can be certain of what's coming. We hope that 2021 will bring us back together. But as Governor Beshear will routinely say, and Dr. Stack will routinely say, that the virus really is telling us all what it is we're going to be doing in the foreseeable future. And that's why what the cabinet's done and what all of you in your leadership roles in your enterprises and your firms have done to lead is so remarkable and so important. So right now, we all know that there's no date certain for routinely returning to our offices and to our meeting places. So in the meantime, I think that we can all be grateful that we have the technology that enables us to gather for sessions just like this, for a partnering conference just like this. And I want to express my own appreciation. So much work has gone into this, developing and creating this conference. And I want to express appreciation to all those who have worked so hard on doing this. Besides Denitra, we have the KYTC staff, Wendy Southworth, Kevin Martin, Karen Jones, Patrick Perry, Alex Smith, Jennifer Gatewood, Travis Wagers, who helps me with practically everything, and of course, John Moore. And from Federal Highways, Michael Loisel, and from ACEC, Russ Roman and Brian Smith. So clearly there was a great partnership in bringing this all together, this partnering session. There was a great partnership and great collaboration, great teamwork. All these folks recognizing that there's no I in teamwork. So thank you all for your hard work. There's a great looking lineup of speakers and topics. Well done. I especially ask you to give your attention to Jason Sawala's comments, his presentation later on highway safety. And a little teaser here, because Jason created something I think that is memorable and something that you can hold on to. And he gave me permission to sort of tease it with what he's calling the 3 I's. And those 3 I's are get informed, get involved, and get intentional. And you're going to hear more about that from Jason in his comments. Now, next, I want to talk for just a few minutes that Denitra's given me about 3 things. First, work in the COVID age, how it's affecting us. Next, she asked me to talk about the SHIFT program, where we are there, and then about Bridging Kentucky. Now, before I talk about those 3 items, though, I just want to say parenthetically, for those who are in the contracting world and are in the conference today, our letting schedule is recovering. That's good news. In the next 30 days, we will have $87 million in new lettings, roughly $87 million in the next 30 days or so. And that has the potential to get us even beyond what we were anticipating 6 months ago before COVID. That has the potential to get us into a $400 to $500 million range for the calendar year. So that's, in my view, I'm taking a deep breath, because when I came into this job and when I was first meeting with folks like Andy Barber in the Highways Department and John Moore and John Wilcoxon and Ron Rigney and others, and Mike Hancock came in along with me, and he said, it's going to be really tough for us. And this was before COVID, because we had such a big backlog from last year of uncompleted work. It's going to be really tough for us to get a lot of work out this year. So I want folks in the contracting community, the consulting community, to know that there is a very deliberate and a very intentional effort to push projects into the system, into the planning system, the programming system, and into the delivery system, into the procurement and construction. Now, let's talk about work in the age of COVID. I would say that there is not one of us who understood what lay ahead of us when the COVID pandemic changed our world less than just a few months ago. It's led to unprecedented changes in how we do our work, and primarily the fact that many of us are working from home, remotely. Now, you're going to be hearing about this from some of the speakers after me. So I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but we've learned a lot. We've learned that because of technology, on account of technology, we were able to adjust and adapt. In fact, we may have even surprised ourselves at how quickly we've been able to adjust and adapt. Earlier, I mentioned Travis Wagers and how much he's helped me. Well, Heather Stout and her whole team, of course, have been just awesome, the IT team to work with in making this transitions and making these adjustments. In hindsight, now it may have seemed like it was no big deal, that it just occurred seamlessly, but it took enormous planning and coordination and determination to get this done. And that's continuing. The first thing we had to do in this new age of COVID was to try to protect the health and the safety of our employees, and also the health and safety of our contractors and their employees. We put into place the governor's healthy at work protocols, washing hands, wearing masks, maintaining social distancing, self-assessments, including temperature checks. When I would visit some of the districts and have visited in some of the maintenance facilities, it was so impressive to me that how these folks are following the protocols that our leadership, our chief district engineers, their leadership has been able to demonstrate and to encourage. Many of you know that to help our employees, a new category of on-call leave was created. And we adjusted some long-standing policies in the interest of good health. For example, many of you know that we've often carpooled in state vehicles for the sake of emergency and thrift. But you can't do that, of course, and maintain distancing that's necessary today. So our crews have been allowed to travel in solo or individually. We've had to plan for some worst case scenarios as well, where someone becomes infected and an entire crew then has to quarantine. Our chiefs and our maintenance folks just last month in the heat of August were of course planning for ice and snow. And this is the big question that's hanging out there on snow and ice. What happens if an entire county snow and ice crew gets knocked offline, quarantined? How do we stretch ourselves to cover the roads in that county? Well, admittedly, we're still working on those questions. And you know what? That's what's good about the challenges that we face today. That's what's good about being thoughtful about problem solving, being thoughtful about troubleshooting, about good management. That's what it's all about. I sometimes say that good management is about taking care of the downside because the upside will take care of itself. So I think most of us would agree that teleworking has some advantages or attractions, and it may remain with us to some extent over time. But it's not the total answer. Denitra talked about that earlier. It's certainly not a substitute for in-person, face-to-face meetings, mentoring, problem solving, camaraderie, culture building. COVID upset the way we do our work. It also delivered, as you know, a substantial hit to our transportation revenues. Although, frankly, we are seeing some unusually robust recovery in the last couple of months. That's encouraging. But COVID did not change our mission or our commitment to the mission of delivering a safe and a first-rate transportation system. And so to those of you who are continuing to work hard every single day to plan and to design and do all the activities necessary to bring projects forward, to keep our roads safe, I would invoke the late Calvin Grayson, who would say, keep up the good work and keep improving. Don't be discouraged. We won't be stuck in COVID forever. But even while we are forced to work around COVID, we can keep up the good work. Now let me talk a minute about the SHIFT program. Denitra asked me to. Let's see what's in store for it going forward. Now, as most of you know, SHIFT was launched 3 years ago as a data-driven method for setting priorities for our road and bridge projects. SHIFT uses data like crashes, fatalities, traffic volume, traffic delay time, likely economic impact, to help in assessing the benefits of a planned project and deciding where it should rank among our priorities. Now, that's a good and it's a thoughtful way of approaching any planning effort, any planning project. We want to always be investing wisely. It's especially important in times like these, times of deep economic recession. It's important that we get maximum value for every dollar, every taxpayer dollar that we spend. SHIFT is a great tool for helping us do that. And we're getting to use that tool. But like any other good tool, it has to be used with proper judgment. I sometimes say that, we're given policies and we're given procedures in any enterprise. We're given protocols to work with 75% of the time. And God gave us judgment to use it the rest of the time. So SHIFT is not an automatic system, and our planners aren't robots. There are going to be times when judgment calls have to be made. And at the end of the day, we rely on the good judgment of our experienced and seasoned engineering staff. Now, here's another factor to think about when we set transportation priorities. It's not this way in all 50 states, but you know that in Kentucky, our highway plan is actually enacted, of course, by the legislature. The highway plan gets introduced as a bill, and it goes through the same process as any other bill before the legislature. That is to say that it gets amended, gets debated, and it gets amended. The legislature can add or remove projects. It can change the project timeline, the schedule, so that one project may be advanced or another one may be delayed. The highway plan bill may go through many changes before a final version is agreed to by both House and Senate, gets signed into law, and becomes our guidance. Our legislators have their own sense of priorities, and their views have to be considered alongside the data-driven SHIFT program. We've also gotten questions, and Denitra wanted me to talk about the Bridge in Kentucky program and where we are in it. Nobody's forgotten about Bridge in Kentucky. These projects are still going out the door. As of today, 38 projects are under active construction. 128 have been awarded to construction. 44 have been designed and are awaiting letting. 116 are nearing design completion, engineering completion. 205 have been completed or substantially completed. There's been at least one Bridge in Kentucky project in 86 counties across the state. But yes, admittedly, we did hit the pause button on Bridge in Kentucky back in January so we could evaluate where we are with bridges all across the state. Then we can decide in a thoughtful way how to move forward. Bridge in Kentucky is certainly still on the radar, as Royce Meredith will confirm. But we want to be sure that the bridges most in need of repair or replacement are, in fact, in the current funding queue. Let me conclude now. I'm going to yield the mic in just a minute to Todd Jeter, our colleague at the federal level, administrator, Kentucky's administrator for federal highways. And after Todd, who's been a great partner in the time that I've been walking in the moccasins of secretary, and he's been administrator. He's been a great partner to work with. After Todd, you're going to hear from our new state highway engineer, James Ballinger, who I can say, I was saying to someone the other day that I have not heard the first person say anything that wasn't positive about James Ballinger. And that's something that James can certainly be proud of. And we are all so happy with him being in this role. But before I turn it over to James, I want to remember my late father's advice. He would say, it's never too late to say thank you. So many in the cabinet have helped me in my role since I became secretary. But I want to actually especially take a minute to thank the secretary's staff. Mike Hancock, Deputy Secretary, Jamie Emmons, our Chief of Staff, Kenny Bishop, Legislative Liaison, Special Assistant, Sarah Jackson, and who I describe as our control tower, Brandy Bill. I think James is going to share some names and some thoughts of some folks who have personally inspired him in his career, like Bill Julich. But I want to mention someone who inspired me and so many in this cabinet throughout its ranks and beyond the borders of its walls. Someone we lost recently after a long and productive life well lived. And I'm talking about Cal Grayson. I mentioned Cal earlier. He was a mentor to many, and he worked to the benefit of everyone. Those of us who were privileged to have known Cal or to have worked under him know that he was a visionary with a capital V when it came to transportation. He was all about lifelong learning and continuous improvement, and in that sense, an example for all of us. He viewed transportation in all its modes as a giant infrastructure for moving people and cargo efficiently and safely. He earned his spurs, however, in the old Department of Highways and never lost interest in our highway program. Calvin appreciated, and I appreciate, the importance of having all of us pull together to keep building and maintaining and improving this highway system. So this conference is well named. It takes all of us in a partnership to get things done. Thank you all. Thank you, Denitra. And back to you.
All right, I turned my camera on a little early, and then it was too early, so I'll learn. And be careful what you ask the secretary to talk about, because